Today, we are going to be talking about this book. So this is Freeing the Genie Within, Manifesting Abundance, Creativity, and Success in Your Life by Debra Lynne Katz. This is one that I got from my mother-in-law and husband's collection. He's pretty sure his mom actually bought it. But yeah, so this is one, again, we're just working through the books that I currently own. I haven't bought any new ones for a while. So this one I was like, I don't know. Like, honestly, Freeing the Genie Within felt kind of weird of a title. And to be honest, there's not like a whole lot in the book that like goes into like that specific thing. It's really a law of attraction made easier. So this book, I mean, it does talk a little about like what the inner genie is for like a teensy bit at the beginning of the book, but really this is the law of attraction book that I feel like we all actually needed. So I actually really enjoyed this book. There were a few chapters that actively I was like, I don't think anybody needs to read these, but other than that, phenomenal book. So the premise of this is basically, you've heard of the law of attraction, and everyone's probably seen The Secret at this point. If you haven't, the premise is basically, if you ask for what you want, you believe you can get it, you're gonna get it. And it kind of works that way, but kind of not. Like, anyone who's done magic, anyone who's done any of the laws of the universe, magic of sorts, one of which is the law of attraction. There's other ones to include, but the majority of the population knows about the law of attraction at this point, and there's like a huge movement just for that one. And so this book talks about it, but then makes it like way more practical. So I've always hated the law of attraction, and all of the things that I always think when I've read those books, like The Secret and the other ones like it, she's actively calling me out on them and then giving you ways to deal with it. And that's like, it was weird. It was kind of freaky reading through it, and to actively have her like call out the exact thoughts that I have about the law of attraction and different ways to manifest, and you're like, oh, well then. And so this book was amazing because of that. She doesn't just call out most of like the thoughts that you might be having towards the law of attraction, but also gives you a lot of exercises. Probably half of the notes I took for the extended discussion are literally just, okay, write down this exercise from this page, this page, this page, this page, this page. And eventually I will do them because they're phenomenal, and it seems like a really good way to deal with it, because I feel like a lot of us could utilize doing these things. And some of them are like gonna be a lot easier. Like, I remember there was one exercise where it's like, declutter. And I'm just like, oh, okay, because seriously, slightly off camera is 3 bins of chaos that I still need to sort through. Like, it's an ongoing process. But that said, like, this book, it gives you so many ways to deal with stuff and a lot of like hands-on things to do, that it's like, it takes the concept and like makes it more applicable and realistic to try and do. Because honestly, a lot of times it just falls flat for me when they're like, just imagine, and then just look around for opportunities for yourself. Because like, there was one book that I still need to buy and see if I actually finish the book, if it's going to be better or not. But like, the one example was that she needed to manifest like $40,000, which is more than like me or my husband have ever made in a year. And she magically found some bonds or investment, something, stock in a company, and guess what? It was 40K. And I'm just like, who has that opportunity though? And who never thought to go look in that? You know, like, sometimes they're pretty far stretched on what they promote to be an option. This author promotes it more as like building blocks. And like, if it feels really extremely unobtainable, lower your standards, because we don't need to look at it in black and white. Like, she has a lot, like there's quite a few examples of like figuring out your gauge of like havingness, and it just like stuff like that. It's like so interesting and like actually makes it applicable. And she doesn't make it feel so unobtainable and that it's a you problem. If you can't manifest, you're the problem. It's more like, let's sit down and figure out why it's not working as an approach, instead of just do better. And so honestly, other than the couple chapters that I didn't like, this is amazing. Now, the ones I didn't like, the first one was chapter 13, and it was just a little too preachy and a little too not my style. And it was the chapter on God. And I'm just like, ugh. And it's definitely the Christian one. There was not a whole lot of wiggle room of like fitting in like polytheism or even just like the universe. I love when books just go with the universe. I feel like that's a very all-encompassing approach to things when it's like, you know, like let's include everybody. But some people feel like that is what God is. God is the universe, and you're like, I beg to differ. And like the exercise in that chapter is like you visualize that like you are a god, and I'm like, feels a little Mormon-y because that's a thing. Seriously, look it up. They're a wild ride to learn about. But also, like, the very thought of, like, being a deity, like, first of all, I'm gonna go with, like, the Norse pantheon. And I'm like, I don't know that I belong on that tier of the tree, to be 100% honest. Like, I feel like that's just not my place as a teeny little human. Like, not my thing. I don't want to be that status. I don't want that responsibility. I don't want that power. I'm happy being human. And so, like, that exercise just, the whole chapter just was like ick for me. The book ended on such lackluster concepts that it was hard to remember the good of the book. But I loved the beginning of the book so much that I had to sit there and, like, reread my notes. I'm like, yeah, it actually was a good book. Because the last two chapters, like, the author actively said she had a hard time writing them. Like, the universe was telling her no. Like, her computer crashed, she lost all of it, she just couldn't get motivated to do it, just didn't feel right. And instead of acknowledging that and being like, maybe we just don't write that. Maybe we need to approach this completely differently. She just kept doing it and just kept powering through and like, no, I know better. And those are the chapters I hated the absolute most because it's like, it's so political and dated and just, I don't care. And for other people, maybe they'll like it, but it's like heavily focused on American politics in like 2008. It's a different world since 2008, as we're probably entering into another recession and we're dealing with insane prices. And like one of the things she's like, we're never gonna have our gas prices go higher. It's gonna just keep going lower until gas is obsolete. And I'm just chuckling at the fact that we're here in 2023 and we've had gas prices absolutely skyrocket, especially I think it was last year, wasn't it? Where it was like almost $6 a gallon. And like, I think diesel ended up over $6 a gallon. Like, insane amounts of money for just gas. Just like you can tell 100% where she falls on a lot of like the political things. And like just some of the way she approaches it too, where she's like, I don't know, it just the way she handled it, it was just weird. The way she was like, how she responded to 9/11, which is always a thing. Like Americans who were conscious and obviously now alive because there's quite a few adults that were not even born. But like people who experienced 9/11 living in the US, like, and like it was a defining moment for our country. And then also like the horrible devastations we've had from like Katrina and stuff like that. And Ike, the hurricane that hit Texas, she mentioned that one. And it's weird of the ones that she was heavily impacted by and others that she wasn't. But like, again, it's just, I don't care about that. Like, it just felt really weird to include that much focus on this book. Like, it had like next to nothing to do with it and kind of just felt like she needed to just vent about her experiences and her life and how it kind of could connect to the story of like what she's trying to tell in this book. But like on a whole, it just felt so displaced from the rest of the book. Like it didn't flow the same. The energy of it was just completely different. And like her hopes of things of the future was like, bro, just wait. Where it's like, oh my God, look at us, we've made so much progress. We elected a black president. And you're like, I hate to bust your bubble of what's gonna come next. And the chaos that's going to ensue. Like, no. Like, we just don't touch that. And how, just all of the things. And she's like, actively against everything ever. And it was just, the last two chapters were awful, to say the least. And like, there were just like random things, like, the end of the book was truly not great. So definitely, I don't recommend you read the last two chapters. I mean, brace yourself if you plan to, because it really is like, are you prepared for the roller coaster that is like a teensy little snapshot into American politics and news and how the general public typically looks at those things? Because again, it didn't fit the rest of the book at all, in the slightest. And like, it feels weird to include it in a book on like manifesting, to be like, oh, do you remember 9/11? And like, you know how like it sucks to be in like a capitalist society, and you're just like, where did the previous parts of this book go? Like, I think the universe is telling you no, because this doesn't fit the rest of the book that you've been talking about this whole time. That said, if you exclude those 3 chapters, phenomenal book. Those 3 chapters do bring it down a notch. I think I'm gonna rate it like a 4 out of 5. I haven't actually done my Goodreads review yet, but I'm planning on probably putting it at like a 4 out of 5, simply because of those 3 chapters. If they didn't exist, it'd be a solid 5 out of 5, but those 3, it just didn't match the rest of the book at all. And plus, in the last part of the book also, it gets a little off the wall. Like, there's a guy who's talking about how he had like this medical condition for his heart, like I think he had a heart attack or something, and then he goes through this crazy ass ritual that is like definitely don't recommend. And then like he talks about how like he got to meet and know Jesus, and honestly at that point I just checked out. I was like, you know what, not my thing, don't care at all. And I know that's a me thing, but I've said this before, Christian stuff can stay in their corner. I do not want to be involved. That's a them thing. If it works for you, cool. It doesn't work for me. Do not want it involved in my practice. Do not want it really involved in my life. And that was one of the things that did suck about this, and you kind of had to like tread a little carefully, because she does have like just slight little things, and you're like, but no. So anyways, on a whole, do I recommend this book? Yes. Do I recommend you don't read those 3 chapters and then you will love this book? Yep. I would love to hear your thoughts on this one in the comments down below. Huge thank you to my patrons. I'll have their names here on the screen. If you'd like to support me and get access to exclusive content, it is patreon.com/nightwillowcrafts. Make sure to like and subscribe. I post every single day, and until next time, thank you so much for watching, and blessed be.